Bowie, Law, Music, Thinking. Alex Sharpe, Law on Trial, Birkbeck, the 22nd of June 2023. Law, Music, Thinking. This short presentation has two main points to make, but I'm going to split them into four. Firstly, as thinkers and as people thinking about law, we can learn a great deal about the creative process of thinking from musicians. The musicians in question are Nico Muhly and David Bowie. If this intrigues you, check out the work of Alex Sharpe. Alex will be speaking at Birkbeck on the 22nd of June 2023 in the Law on Trial series. A book is certainly worth looking at. David Bowie Outlaw. So, this is a short extract from Lindsay Hanley writing in The Guardian about Bowie. Bowie collected ideas, thoughts. They all fed into his life. He would look at one artist, it would lead him to another artist, which would lead him to a book, which would lead him to a theory, which would lead him to a philosophical text, which would then lead him to another artist. That's the thing. Life for Bowie was a series of encounters with people and things that made change possible. Not a series of transactions designed to get one over on other people. I've missed him more than ever since he died, because seen in the whole, his life stands in rebuke to the Philistinism, cynicism, and bad faith that's come to dominate public life. I wanted to link these rather moving descriptions of Bowie's way of thinking, way of writing music perhaps, with the following statement from Nico Muhly. He says this: when I was at Juilliard, I had constantly hundreds of tiny, brilliant ideas. And instead of learning to use them, I'd throw them at the wall and the results would be a sparkling and disorganised mess. I needed a method. Now for me, every project has three clearly defined phases: scheming and planning, the actual writing, the editing. What Muhly and Bowie are talking about, I think, are the creative process. One needs that creative process, one needs that creative passion, but one needs to structure as well. I think this is a general lesson, whether one is a musician, a lawyer, a thinker. We can think in terms of stages then, of the stages of the creative process and of making sense of it: scheming, planning and editing. They can certainly be seen to follow each other, a kind of linear process, but it's perhaps more accurate to think of them as a cycle, a process that, as it were, folds back on itself. To write something down, i.e. to go through the process once, will involve scheming or thinking generally and creatively about the task and the resources you have to deal with it. Hanley on Bowie's creative process is also very, very illuminating on this idea of scheming and planning. Thinking is perhaps a working backwards and forwards, a kind of radically open way of making links, which is hard to do properly because it does require an open spirit. Perhaps the more you do it, the better you get. But for all the despair that writing and thinking can bring, it's worth hanging on to this creative, this joyous sense of making creative links. In parentheses, I wonder if Bowie knew or met Muhly. So could there be a joyous way of thinking about the law? Of thinking about the law with an open spirit and beyond cynicism and bad faith? This, to me, is exactly what Alex Sharpe is doing in her Bowie book. I would recommend it to you as a lawyer or as a musician or as anyone working within the spirit of Bowie. Introduce a new world with a shrug.